the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Don't step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
And Nolan, we've had a little bit of a flavor of everything so far this season, from the biggest of tracks to some of the smallest, but I think tonight marks our first true and tried short track of 2023, and we'll see if that brings along any surprises.
And what good of a track is it, right? Then Richmond Raceway. It's 3/4 of a mile. It is a D-shaped oval, and it has been one of the longest standing NASCAR tracks on the calendar. So many times this track has seen champions be decided with, of course, that all-important cutoff race that has recently been changed around over on the NASCAR schedule in the last few years, but it still holds a place very dear in our hearts, especially for the boys here at RSR.
Yeah, it is one of the longest running tracks as well here on the iRacing service. We take a look at round 6, where it slots in to this 2023 calendar. Don't blink, because we're almost already a third of the way through the regular season. We'll continue to work on qualifying that field of 16 drivers between now and that red date top right corner of your screen for round number 20, the regular season finale on August 28th at Daytona International Speedway. Of course, last time we were with you, we were at the newly reconfigured Atlanta Motor Speedway. That race won by Matt Danson. Danson takes home the checkered flag in that one, joining the likes of Andrew Friedosh, Agnew Phillip, and Esteban Rodriguez as other race winners this season. And you take a look at how the playoff grid stands coming into tonight. Again, it is still early, Nolan, but there's a lot of familiar names below that red cut line. Mara, Johnson, Fetter Place, Whitaker, Stanford all below. And you talk about some of maybe the new names. How about Dunkelberger, Pooler, and then as well Jason Staney, 12th position. So some of the new blood making their presence known early here in the season.
And that's always what you like to see, right? You like to see the new guys be able to hit the ground running. It means they're not going to have to kind of waddle around in the back or the midfield in their first season. It means they can really show what they can do at a track like this. And so far, we've seen some drivers be able to be jack of all trades. And I think among those drivers, Jason Staney has proven that he can finish well at just about any racetrack out there on the calendar. So it should be a straight fight then here until the end of this race. And I think, who knows, we could be seeing yet another first-time winner here tonight.
We talk about Richmond as well, and that important, location that it has played historically on the NASCAR calendar, and at least for the stars of the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series, you're going to have to kind of get your money's worth here tonight, because I believe it's our one and only time coming to Richmond this season. So you're going to have to, certainly if it's a racetrack that's in your wheelhouse, take advantage and score some points tonight. There will be several repeat racetracks. We talked about that when we were at Atlanta Motor Speedway just a little bit ago. And in fact, that one going to be making 2 appearances in the regular season alone, but Richmond standing alone here tonight. And drivers right now moving on to the qualifying session, single car as always. And it is worth noting, 39 drivers, Nolan, attempting to qualify for this Richmond 200, so no drivers will be eliminated.
And I think that's one thing that everybody's going to love to see, right? The fact that you're going to be able to very safely make it into the race here tonight. So some drivers that might prefer to start at the back, if there's ever a race where you want to not take the qualifying lap and start from the beginning, well, this will be a good place to do it as we ride on board Agno Phillip, the 851 Pro Chevrolet, working off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. And already, even on just the qualifying laps, we can see that little bit of counter steer going in on corner exit, rolls through the turn 4 exit, and a cross start finish, which a bit of an interesting placement, the start finish line of Richmond, something that I don't think gets mentioned often enough. Most D ovals, you'll find that start finish line at about the middle point of that D oval. Here, it's right off the exit of 4.
Yeah, it is a little bit tricky to tell, but when you're high above Richmond, you can certainly tell it's very close to the exit of 4. You see Lariah exit, already start finish line. Center of the D is right about there where that black NASCAR banner is, so that can have an effect as well on finishes, right? How much of a run you're going to get coming off of the corner, but I think it primarily has an effect on restarts because it backs that restart zone up a little bit closer to the exit of 4. A lot of cars actually going to be in the center of 3 to 4 when the race itself is restarted. Looking at Michael Araya now, the rules for qualifying, same as they are every week. Single car, 2 laps. Best one is your grid position. We do tend to see drivers when there is no risk of elimination opt out of qualifying to start the race at the back of the field. As you take a look on board there with Tom Wetmore, these do have to be clean laps though, Nolan. If car gets into the outside wall, gets into the grass, has any sort of infraction, lap time will be disallowed.
That's something that a lot of drivers have been having to kind of struggle with ever since the qualifying scrutiny of iRacing was increased. In particular, though, you have to also be careful when you're coming off pit road, right? You spin the tires up too much, just trying to get some heat into them, and it'll even disqualify you out of the session outright for that. It's a very fine line of what you're able to do, and especially at a short track like the Richmond Raceway. But so far, haven't been seeing anybody make any sort of mistakes in qualifying, and right now, there's only 4 drivers that have yet to put times on the board. Make that only 3. Brandon Bowie among them.
A couple of new drivers looking to try to get a time in here late in this one. It's also worth noting as you jump on board with Brandon Bowie that there is a new driver making their first start of the season here tonight. Nick Alford will be driving the number 15 car. His first start of the season, and Alfred's number 15 machine currently scored inside of a qualifying spot, obviously, so no concern for him about making or missing out on his first race of the calendar. He's back in the high 20s or so, and we'll see how he fares in his first full-fledged competition of the year. A couple more cars trying to get a second lap in. Steve Durham tries to bolster his qualifying efforts. Right now, though, with less than a minute left, Kostowicz in contention for pole.
Very much is, and currently sitting 14,000 up from, of course, series veteran San Nieto. So Kostowicz putting down that second lap. Will he be able to improve on his time? It looks like just a little bit, 22.281 for the 09 car. So he is able to make good on that position, and he is going to put himself up here on provisional pole.
We'll see if anything happens in the dying seconds, but that may just do it. Bowie coming down to the pit lane. Tom Whitmore, in fact, on a little bit of a bonus lap around the racetrack now, not for time, maybe just a little bit of extra practice. What you'll often see, Nolan, as well, is some drivers, when they've completed their 2Q laps, is they'll use that third lap, which isn't timed, as a test pit road entry at speed. You can see that pit road wall right in the center of turn number 4 back there. So that could be a talking point as well if this race goes green. But something tells me, Nolan, just based on what we saw over the weekend with the NASCAR Cup Series, what we saw last week with the drivers of the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series, Richmond's not typically a race where you have those long green flag runs on the sim. Not to jinx anything, you never know, but historically speaking, this is one of those races where there's a lot of aggression, there's a lot of tempers, and makes for a good viewing experience.
You know, Richmond, in a lot of regards, reminds me a lot of the Dover Motor Speedway here on the iRacing service as well, in where there are two extremes. You either go 10 laps without a caution before getting one, or you go green to checkered almost the entire way through, and there will be no in-between. That seems to definitely be the trend on the RC service. You can lump in tracks like New Hampshire Motor Speedway for that sort of trend as well. But I think we could be in for a good race. We've seen these guys put together some fairly long runs, even at tracks like Martinsville, where you wouldn't expect them to be able to get long green flag runs in. So I think I still have some faith in these guys for now. We'll check in on see if that faith still stands at about 50 laps.
TBD, we'll see how that one shakes out. These drivers have a final few moments of warm-up, and we are now ready to go trackside and say, let's go racing for round number 6. So let's head down and take a look at your starting grid tonight, brought to you by Get Wet Sports, and it is career pole position number 1 for the 09 of Spencer Kostowicz. The Pierce MC Sports Ford will bring us to the green flag alongside the number 2 of Sam Nieto. Then talk about the star power. Road 2 sees Andrew Freenosh alongside Matt Danson in 3rd and 4th, and it's Jason Staney and Esteban Rodriguez, your top 6. A great sharing for Pierce Sim in the top 6, having 3 spots.
Defending champion Agno Phillip going to be back on row number 4 in the A51 Pro Chevrolet with Ross Cato for Fast Forward Esports starting beside him. Rounding out the top 10 going to be the Bowie Esports Toyota Camry of Ryan Dunkelberger with the 1-Tube Tech Roadhouse Esports number 51 of Tom Wetmore on road number 5. Andrew Phipps sits 11th with Cody Harris back in 12th.
Look at number 13 tonight belongs to Brandon Bowie. He'll be alongside the number 14 starting spot tonight of Michael Araya. Steve Tucker, Michael Johnson on row 8 with Casto and Davis, your top 18.
Rounding out the top half of the field, you got Alexander Light and Thomas George on row number 10. Bradley Burke and William Schmidt are in 21st and 22nd. Row 12 holds David Kolb and Brandon Fetterplace.
25th position tonight will belong to Nick Amara, 26th for Paul Bergoli, and then Nick Alford get to draw 27 in his debut. Manatsu Major alongside in 28th, and on row 15, it'll be Gregory Shaw and Newen Flores, your top 30.
Michael Kuczynski and Carl Pooler will be in 31st and 32nd, still under half a second off from pole sitter Spencer Kostowicz, Eric Papineau and Sean Kalis, 34th and 33rd. General Wyman Richard Woodruff round at 35th and 36th.
And to round out the field here tonight, Richard Wolsifer will be 37th, Steve Durham 38th, and Brett Punkari will decide to take a provisional. No time into qualifying. He will start at the rear in 39th. That look at your starting grid tonight brought to you, as always, by Get Wet Sports. GetWetSports.com is the world's first digital content library, which showcases and celebrates creators of all sizes and backgrounds, including iRacing, military gamers, and women in gaming. Getting listed is free. Find out more at GetWetSports.com and start your content creation journey today. 200 laps on tap from iRacing's virtual Richmond Raceway. Track temps at 103, partly cloudy skies on a Henrico County afternoon. Pace car going to be in this time, and for the first time in his career, Spencer Kostowicz leads the field at a turn 4 as we say, let's go racing at Richmond. Lap number 1 goes in favor of Andrew Freenosh as he leads the opening now 2. Kostowicz trails to 2nd, and side by side for 3rd behind them is it's the 94 car of Agno Phillip down on the inside of the number 2 of Sam Nieto.
And the top two already started to pull away from third on back. Philip and Nieto side by side for third. That is allowed for Kostowitz and Freenach to build up a good 0.3 of a second gap up in front. Not a whole lot when it comes to the mile and a half, but a short track that could easily equal a good 2-3 car lengths. That is a lot of time for them to make up, as the top two no doubt going to take full advantage of the field, trying to go side by side for positions behind them.
And this racetrack's so tight that if you're at the back of the lead lap, you're already about a half a lap behind the race leaders up front. You can see that two-car Nieto. He lost out early with some tire spin on the outside on the initial start of this race, and he will lose out an extra spot as Agnew Phillip completes the pass there. So he's down 2 to fourth. Phillip up 4 to third is the biggest mover in the field, and he wants more, looking to the back bumper of the 09 of Kostowitz.
Starting to go single file off of turn 2 all the way down the back straightaway until you get back to the likes of Dunkelberger and Harris, as the top two have once again been reeled in. Did not take long once they got single filed on out. The freight train going to lead the way down to turn number 1. Here comes Phillip now diving to the inside, trying to make the move on the 09, and looks like Phillip will clear for that second position, and Kostowitz falling from first then back to third here in the opening 10 laps.
And I thought that maybe it was just some early lap nerves, the ability for Andrew Freenach to be quick first time shooting off of a corner as they came off of 2, because Kostowitz has seemingly gotten into a rhythm. He had stayed on the back bumper to Freenach, but Phillip made it look pretty easy now, and Phillip needs to go because you can see Andrew Freenach pulling a little bit of a gap into number 24. Of course, Freenach part-time campaign this season, already a race winner though at the other of the smaller tracks we've raced at so far this year, Nolan, at Phoenix. So I know Richmond more of a tried and true short track, certainly in comparison to Phoenix, but both of these slower corners for both these racetracks, and Freenach has been good at both.
He very much has, and I can tell you right now that he's going to look set to now try to drive away from this field, as he's built up almost half a second gap now over defending champion Agnew Phillip. Freenach trying to see if he can maybe retake that crowd and start a second era of Freenach dominance, but so far Phillip is doing a good job on keeping that second place, but all the while Freenach continuing to pull away, and the number 20 Mustang up at the front end of this field, and I have a feeling we are going to be seeing quite a few laps yet before Phillip's able to reel it back in.
Back here in traffic, much more side-by-side action compared to the race leaders who have started to string things out a little bit. It's the battle for P24, and your easy benchmark there, that bright green National Multiple Sclerosis Society Chevrolet of Nicholas Mara. Behind him, Fetterplace, Shaw, Brigoli, and company. Even further on back, it's Pooler, the instigator, right here, side-by-side to the inside of Major. Why not go 3 wide there, as it was a slow exit off of 4 from Brigoli.
Slow exit off, but so long as he can get a good entry, he may just be able to recover that one down the back straightaway now, and diving into turn number 3 to 71 souls the inside, but now washing up a bit from that apron is Carl Pooler, and Brigoli trying to get the drive off at the top shelf, but this time bobbles off the exit of turn number 4, and that cost him all that momentum. But look at this, now trying to see if he can't maybe keep the 71 pinned into that inside lane, and Brigoli now with the run off of 2.
Yeah, Brigoli's going to have to try to do everything he can to fight back up top, but the inside advantage to Carl Pooler, I think it'd be a tough one to kick, and Sean Kalist slow in turns number 3 and 4. The 43 car going to keep it going, but some incident between he and I think the 56 of Wolsifer. Let's take a look. This was lap 13. Back straight away, and he was sideways well before Wolsifer made the final bit of contact there, but I wonder if it was more so just finishing him off. Let's watch this angle here, and oh yeah, he had some help. Left rear sent him down to the bottom, and I'll tell you what, we've seen so many cars, Nolan, get big damage when they get sideways in the backstretch here at Richmond. They pound that inside wall because there's not a lot of room down there. That was a great piece of driving by the 43 car to keep it out of the inside wall.
There's not a lot of room to save a car at the Richmond Raceway, and I agree. Some phenomenal driving there to be able to keep him in line and keep that car pointed up in the right direction as we turn focus back up onto the live pictures. And I think we're going to be seeing quite a bit of that tonight once these tires start to wear in a bit, right? I mean, we're not going to be seeing it maybe with car-to-car contact, but as one by one drivers start to see those tires fall off, we're going to be seeing some more drivers, I think, get a little bit hairy, particularly off of turn 2.
You can see that after getting to second, it has not been an easy road to the top spot for Agadil Phillip as Freenage continues to maintain about a 0.5 of a second advantage. It is still Phillip 2, Kostowitz 3rd. You haven't missed anything there. Nieto 4th, Staney still stagnant, P5, where he started this race. So up front, a little bit of consistency as this race gets a good rhythm to it now, 19 laps in.
Already almost a 10th of the way through. The laps fly by quickly here, just under 25 seconds, just over 23. So, and we're going to continue to see these lap times get a little bit further up there as, again, these tires start to wear in. But for now, the race has sort of settled up into a rhythm. And I don't know. I think I'm having some faith yet that we're going to be seeing some long green flag runs tonight.
I did say that it is not typical of Richmond Raceway to be a race in which you get those extended green flag runs. Of course, we did not do the spring Richmond race here in the Full Throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series last season. Instead, we ran it as round number 18 in the fall. That race had 7 caution flags. And how about Brett Pancari wrecking the Blue Jays? He's got the jersey, t-shirt on the wall. Looking to advance his position, though, after he started down in the last spot, and a caution will come out early. It's right in front of him. Car into the outside wall in turn number 2, the double O car with problems. So yellow flag number 1 goes to Steve Tucker. Let's take a look to see what happened to Tucker down in 1 and 2.
Gonna see the 00 get a bit out of shape. Maybe that's wrong with a 99. Oh, nope. Tucker's already stopped against the outside fence by the time the 99 Pearson's car went through. But I'm not seeing a lot of damage on the 00 car. I have a feeling may have been almost self-inflicted on that one. We'll jump back again and close this one back to 3 and 4. He's got the 39 pushing right behind him as he saw the Michael Johnson just go deep into 3 and 4. So maybe a bump and run gone wrong down to turn 1. 39 looks for the move, but it is no contact as right there. Just got loose overcorrected. And I tell you what, that's not even that hard of a hit to the outside wall. I think he'll be able to get that car all right there.
It was a decent enough lick. I think the big thing for him was straightening out the car. Did he end up losing a lap in that exchange? That's going to be the big question. In fact, he'll stay out, I believe, to make sure he try to gain some spots. Your top cars in the field do not come down to pit road. However, there are some takers towards the rear, headed by Pancari and others. Flores, Kaczynski, Papadow, Kalist, Woodruff, Wolsifer, and Durham all going to come down pit road early in this one for service. And I think that accident there with Tucker, a good example of even when you can survive those chaotic opening laps here at Richmond, you don't tend to get long green flag runs, because once those tires go away, people struggle deep into a run. And I would suspect 25, 30 laps into a run every single time tonight, we're going to start to see people handle with the struggling, just like Tucker did there. He claims responsibility for the accident, so he'll receive an end of the longest line penalty.
Well, I think I spoke too soon about being able to get a long green flag running on that one, but we got a decent distance into there, and it was very civilized throughout the field, very single file, and I think that could contribute partially to these cars, right? I mean, it was already difficult to make passes at Richmond in the first place because of how multi-grooved this racetrack is, but these cars, though, it makes it even harder. I mean, that was one of the big things, right? These cars were touted to be good at road courses and short tracks. Well, it's been harder than ever to pass at just about any short track race. You look at, no matter what it is, Martinsville, Bristol, Richmond, and Iowa, it's turning very much into almost a Bowman Gray style mentality when it comes to overtakes. You can do it. It's not going to be terribly pretty, though.
Lights out on top of the pace car. So this race is going to get set to get back underway. 25 down, 175 laps to go. Long way from home here in Richmond. Freenosh inside of the front row. Still going to be Phillip to the outside. The outside struggled, though, on the initial start when it was the 2 car of Nieto in control. Let's see if Phillip has any of the same issues and if this could be an opening for Kostowitz to follow the 20 car through on the inside line. To pace car off, the 20 decides when to restart this race. We're back underway, but it's Kostowitz this time. He bobbles, and that's going to allow the 94 of Phillip to defend second. The fight will be for third.
Top 2 again on a good breakaway. Kostowitz and Nieto side by side down the back straightaway. Kostowitz still has the bottom. He's going to go for the send down to turn 3. Nieto, though, keeping pinched in on the bottom. Got to be careful not to lean on that door too much as they track out across turn 4 and down through start and finish. It is still the number 09 on the bottom, but now look at Matt Danson waiting in the wings. We've seen that 38 car before, even in races past, get awfully physical when he gets trapped behind people. I have a feeling he's not going to be too content to be stuck behind these guys too long when the top 2 are pulling away.
And the longer this battle continues, you're right, those race leaders going to pull further and further away. Matt Danson with the best seat in the house as he watches on from 5th. Nieto's perspective up top, he's doing a good job of making the top side work. Not many have successfully marched to defense from the outside of the racetrack so far tonight. Most of the people have won these battles from the inside of the racetrack. Kostowitz doing everything he can, but these two are still glued door to door, and it is allowed now race leader Freenosh to get more than a second ahead of him.
And still, this fight showing signs of going nowhere anytime soon. And I think just there, finally, Nieto clears for the top shelf. All that work from Spencer Kostowitz is all for naught. He's going to be forced to drop back down to 4th. And now we enter once again the world of the trains, headed up by Nieto, tracking out off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Looking a bit further down the field to the Hazim Design Chevrolet of 24 of Grant Davis. He's fighting now with the Bowie Esports machine up on the top shelf of William Schmidt.
24 car doing a good job of keeping the car low on the exit that time through turn number 2. Davis now will have to slot in line behind the 6 car. That was Thomas George winning out in that exchange. George 17th, Davis 18th. He might not be done yet, though. Actually trying to use the inside line as an offensive line. To make headway, the 6 car washes up a little bit, and look out! Davis gets tagged. What a save! But we saw that one coming as the 6 gave it too much on the exit. More contact now, and Grant Davis, another good save, but it's going to be at the expense of about 15 spots. Let's look again.
15 spots better than a wrecked race car as he had the look down to 3 and 4. It didn't end up happening. He got the good drive, though, off of turn number 4. Was able to set him up for turn 1. Poked to the inside, and it was a good launch. I mean, he managed to make it. It was going to be a clean pass there, but Thomas George tracked down a bit too quickly and aggressively jumped on the loud pedal. He scrambled on the track, and right there was the hit. A quick lockup of the front tires for Davis, though. Got that car straightened out, and from there, just lift out the brakes and get that thing rolling.
Second time we've seen an impressive save off of 2 and down the back straightaway, and immediately when the contact happened, the 6 of Thomas George apologized for it. It was in the battle for 17th at the time. Again, not much favor to the 24 Davis, who is now scored in 34th. He is twice as many positions away for the race lead as he was before that contact happened. A little bit of 3-wide action off and into turn 3. The meat of the sandwich is Alexander Light, and he wanted nothing to do with that one. Lifted off, gave the spot to the 43 of Sean Kalist, and now he can continue to do battle with the number 95 of Burke, but Kalist running over cars up the road. Look out, and let's go 3 wide again.
Alexander Light down the inside, trying to see if he can't secure the move on the SK Sim Racing design number 43. And Kayla's dumping into the outside wall. That will give Light the speed he needs. He'll try to dive it down to turn 1. But Kayla's still fighting back, and look at the drive from the top shelf for Sean Kayla's trying to make something happen, and can he clear by the time they get to 3? He gets the nose out, and he is going to clear. So either Alexander Lyle let him go, or Kayla's has got some magical outside line there down through 1 and 2.
And you can see all of this jostling. One of the quietest cars, probably that 8 of Alexander Light. Behind him, the battle is Carl Pooler on the outside, Jaron Widemaster on the inside, but it's a twofer because behind him, Brett Pancari and Gregory Shaw also side by side, and Pancari continues to march his way through the field. Remember, did not take a time into qualifying, started at the rear. He's plus 12. That's good enough for the second most positions gained out of anybody tonight.
Doing a spectacular job so far, as these guys are still trying to work their way up through the order, right, and try to pick up whatever kind of positions at this point that they can muster. And it's been a good going for several of these drivers. Of course, Kayla, as you mentioned before, up 11 spots, up to that 23rd position after he started back in 34th. And we look a bit further up the field to Ross Cato and co. And even these guys have been trying to get themselves a bit further sorted. But for Cato and Wetmore, they're trying to bounce back as they both dropped 1 position, likely to Ryan Dunkelberger here and Michael Arroyo, who are both kind of on the up and up as it stands. And well, how about that? Wetmore clearing from Cato. Now he's going to try to make one up the inside of the 18 down to 3 and 4.
You can see the focus with Ross Cato there as he scored in 12th at the moment, trying to make up some spots, get back to where he was, but it is the aggressive likes of Bowie and Johnson behind him that are going to make that increasingly more difficult. Dunkelberger cannot complete the pass on Tom Wetmore that time. The number 51 car stays in front. It will continue to hang on to the final spot inside of the top 10. 43 laps now in the works from Richmond, and Andrew Friedosh has led every single one thus far.
Trouble off of turn 2, and it's a parking lot off of the second corner onto the back straightaway. The whole field having to jump on the bonnets, and we're still spinning them out of the back straightaway. And I see Danson involved. Lariah was there. We were just talking about how good of a day those two are having. Also making contact in big ways was Papineau. I think Kalis got a fairly hefty piece of this one, along with Andrew Phipps, who got shoved into the outside wall.
Well, let's take a look. It was for 8th and 9th position, and we'll be able to watch the lap leading up to this. Danson leading atop Michael Araya, 4 position. Again, these cars running up towards the front. There's going to be contact in the corner. And let's see. About a car length of a difference between them. Nolan headed off to turn number 1. Danson leaves some room on the bottom, and
oh boy,
it's tough to tell. Late dive for the 44 and a deep dive for sure. Danson almost left the door open for a moment and then started to close it, though.
I left it open, and it's that 1 second. That's all you need to try to make a move. And Lariah went for before that door tried to slam shut again. And you see the whole field just comes flying around. It's a blind corner, right? And it's a case of what do you do at that point in time? Here's the look from Nazi Major. Everyone's just stopped. So you just got to try to find the one spot that is clear. You can see the smoke up there. That's from one of these drivers that spun out just trying to avoid this, but luckily managed to keep it off the wall.
And race leaders come down to pit road. Matt Danson misses his pit stall. Most everybody else, I think, with a successful stop for service. It was 4 tires for Andrew Friedosh, who came down as the lead car, but Friedosh missed his pit stall on entry. And I'm curious how much that will affect him as well. He will cycle off well back in the running order. Agnew Phillips, number 94 car, currently being shown as the highest running car of those who came down pit road. So the mistake for Friedosh going to be very costly, as it's going to take about 10 spots away for the driver who had led every lap of the afternoon. And you can see right now, Brett Punkari and Richard Woodruff Nolan do not pit. This is because when all of those leaders didn't pit on the first yellow of the night, these guys did. So while your race leaders pitted with, nearly 45 lap old tires, these two only have 20 lap old tires. It is certainly a disadvantage, but that's the context between this call. And Punkari's going to get a bonus point for a lap led, and the 35 and the 27 will control the field.
Now, question for you. Do you reckon Freenach can potentially try to fight back? I mean, he's back in that 15th spot, and we take this green flag. He had led a bunch of laps. He was already starting to pull away from the field as it was. How soon before we see him back in the front trying to get it away from Punkari here?
I have learned over many years to not question the abilities of Andrew Freenach, and I think that everybody else as well going to be awfully giddy to get past these two on the front row. This could be an exciting one. A pace car off it in. Still 153 laps to go. Green flag in the air. It's a good jump for Punkari. He'll lead to turn number 1. But cue the Jaws music. Agnew, Phillip, Cody Harris, and others on fresh tires. Making moves early. Here goes the 94 to the inside for the race.
Oh.
Big check up off it too.
Man, Richard Woodruff is in a bad way at the moment as we go 3 wide down to 3 and 4. Something going awry for that 27 car as he's now going to make contact with the 18 off of the final corner. He didn't go. It fallen back to 3rd by the time they just got to turn 1, and now going to fall outside of the top half of this field as well. So it's a bad start for Woodruff, and this is stacking up that entire outside lane and forcing drivers to scramble down to the low side.
It's going to check everybody up, and listen, we knew that it was going to be like this. Woodruff already 20th, Punkari already 10th. He gets his lap led and he gets his bonus point, but for some other similar circumstances where drivers stayed out, that one wasn't that bad because the faster cars in the end able to get on through. Freenach not making much headway, though. He is still 11th. Having already passed the two drivers who had decided to stay out. So by default, Agnew Phillip was second on the pit cycle. Freenach made the mistake, and Phillip now has assumed the race lead. You can see him about a corner and a half ahead of Andrew Freenach, who you're on board with, as he tries to make a move on Roscato.
Trying to make the move down to the turn number 3 is that number 20 car, and he's going to track out down the front straightaway. Freenach in the fray as well as he's going to, again, try to lunge the inside of Michael Johnson. Johnson, though, pulling the top shelf of Roscato here in that number 39 car, and he's not going to be able to pull clear just yet. Tell you what, that outside lane has got some speed underneath it, right? And we didn't just see this over in the stock car race this past week. We also the wheel and modified tour races. That outside lane had some pretty good speed this past week.
You can see the 12 car currently the first in this group of side-by-side racing, but it'll be Michael Johnson up top in the Rich DPC Ford Mustang clearing, and now here comes number 20 of Freenach to the inside of the racetrack. I'll admittedly say Nolan's still getting used to the different number, the different colors for Freenach with the Elliott Sadler Esports Ford Mustang this season, and he's inside of 3 wide. He got the Velocity 10% off, 52 Chevy up on the outside. All of this and more in the fight for 11th on back.
And now that Cato's down to the inside, he's got to contend with William Schmidt trying to power through around the top shelf as well, although Schmidt's going to back out as he had to lift off the wood, slamming into the outside wall. But Casto, in his Velocity machine, still trying to close out to Andrew Freenach, but Freenach finally going to pull clear in that number 20 car down the pit straight. And now, how about that? A little bit of a defensive move for Freenach as Casto showed the nose down to turn 1, tipped his hand a bit too early, and the 20 car was able to cover him off where they got into the binders for a corner entry.
And a caution flag will fly. It's the 3rd of the afternoon. Your race leaders on the front stretch, this one on the back. Sean Kalist is in the outside wall, and so is Nguyen Flores. So we will see how those two came together. 43 car involved in his second of the night. He avoided one earlier on the back. Maybe not this. Let's take a look back, and he's all on his own. He's coming off of turn number 2. and there's already smoke, so Kalis was way late and just locked up the tires and just slid directly into the stationary 88 of Flores, who right there tagged the 30. I think the 30 at Kaczynski. Nolan kind of tried to lift mid-corner to cut under Punkari, and as a result, the 88 quickly approached and tagged him.
And that sent Kaczynski rounded up to the outside wall. Tucker had to scramble to the bottom, and then you mentioned before, Kalis just entering the smoke unsided and locked it down. You rode on board with him there, and that's tough for Sean Kalis. I mean, you just come off of turn number 2, and all you see is smoke. You got to try to aim for a spot and hope there's not a car there. And by the time I realized there was a car there, it was a bit too late to really do anything about it as we get put under the third caution of the afternoon.
Yeah, oftentimes, you know, obviously you want drivers to slow down. Oftentimes, though, you know, if you just slam the brakes, you lose control of the car like he did there. And again, he's pointed the accident, hit the brakes, and just slid right into it. Sometimes it's better to not fully apply the brakes so that you can still steer the race car right at the same time. And I think you're right. By the time he had decided to just mash the brakes, that car showed up out of the smoke directly in front of him, and there was not much that he could do. So that one is not one that Kalis is able to avoid. It's the third yellow flag of the afternoon. Your race leaders, though, do not come down pit road. I think the big decision with that, Nolan, is these drivers, like every Monday night, only have 4 additional sets of tires available to them. If you can get freshies every time you came in, it'd be an easy call, but we're seeing drivers have to skip yellow flag pit cycles because they can't run out of tires. We're only a quarter of the way through this race.
And it's pit at your own risk when it comes to a lot of these races, and the reshuffling of cars under the last couple of cautions is going to see now Agno Phillip take up the race lead with Sam Vieto still somehow in the same place he started. They back in that second position, but Kostowitz is back up in third, so he can potentially have a look at Phillip here if he can get a good jump off the line and see if he can get Sam Vieto down through 1 and 2. Maybe somebody set something up for the back straightaway into 3 and 4. Esteban Rodriguez, I see, moving down the timing order and potentially just having some technical difficulties, it looks like, for the number 16 car. So some false alarms now. I thought he got the longest line penalty for a hot minute.
You know, trying to find himself back in line. Also worth noting that Newid Flores has claimed responsibility for the most recent accident, so the number 88 car will receive an end of the longest line penalty that has not been issued yet. However, knowing that it's coming, the 88 car has decided to come down to the pit lane under this yellow, get a little bit of bonus service because he's going to be sent to the rear no matter what. He'll make his way off the pit road and hustle up to catch up to the rear of the field, because your race leaders are already taking the 1 to go signal. Phillip Nieto on the front row, and we asked about Frinosh Nolan. I thought he'd be making more progress than he did, but he was pretty stagnant that last run. He's still P11.
I mean, to be fair for Frinosh, he's always been a long-run driver, right? He's been one of those drivers that's able to really utilize long-run pace to his advantage, and so far, we haven't had a whole lot of chances for him to be able to utilize some of that pace, so he's hoping that these guys go green so he can really show what that car can do later in the race here.
Green flag back in the air. It's a good jump all around, especially for race leader Agno Phillip. He has the lead to turn number 1. Kostowitz, much better launch than he did last time. He'll make it a fight for second instead of third this time. Nieto, though, with a good run down the back straightaway. Now the 09 dives off into 3. They'll be nose to nose in the battle for P2.
Side by side as we crossed our finish line. Nober on to lap number 63. Down back to turn 1. Still Kostowitz and Nieto trying to fight it out for that second spot. I mentioned Kostowitz had to try to get Nieto on that opening lap, or, well, he was going to risk falling into a situation like this where you end up side by side for lap upon lap upon lap. And at the end of the day, Nieto's probably going to pull out over this anyway and quit from the top side. We've seen that time and time again. It's been so difficult to make a move up the inside of the turn 1. That outside, that's where you really want to be if you're side by side with the driver.
And a lot of jockeying and shuffling midfield. That's the 16 car of Esteban Rodriguez down on the bottom. Talked about him a little bit earlier on tonight. Race winner of the Daytona 250 back out of February 20th. It's got the win, needs to maintain the points if he wants to fight for the Full Throttle Cup in 2023. And he's alongside the 28 Cody Harris. Harris, the highest he's been at all tonight, started 12th up to P5.
Been a good run for Harris, plus 7 positions up into the top running. But you look a few further back, you got David Kolb, started 23rd. He is all the way up to the 8th position. So David Kolb of several spots in trouble as Dunkelberger gets sent down towards the inside wall of the 18 car, and he's going to save it. But I think after glancing off that inside wall, and actually no, he did not hit the inside wall, so he's going to track up now and be able to lose a ton of spots all the way back to 24th, but could be a heck of a lot worse.
I cannot believe that he was able to save that race car again. We have seen 3 incidents like that.
Trouble, turn 3.
Trouble into the outside wall, a couple of cars. And at the front of it all was Andrew Freenosh. You don't see him now. He has already driven away. But he was involved in some regard. The 51, the 10 also there. What happened? Oh, it was the 51 sent up the hill. Let's see if it was assisted. Wetmore goes off and into the corner, and oh yeah,
that was just
moved
clumsy.
To the inside and run through by Michael Johnson.
Oh, and Freenosh got tagged up at the outside wall because of that, and then the 25 and Durham came in really late into all of this, and the 25 car, that of course would be the likes of Andrew Phipps, one of the Bowie Esports drivers that got caught up into the outside wall because of that. There you look on board with Michael Johnson, who has taken the responsibility for this latest black flag, and that's just unfortunate. I think he tried to go for a move, but Webber's already moving down to the inside. It was one of those moves that wasn't really gonna ever happen. Philip continues to lead the way down to turn number 3 under the latest yellow flag, currently rounding lap 69. He will still continue to stay out. The host of drivers that are down pit road include Pancari, Casto, Johnson just left pit road, Wetmore, understandably so, Laraya came down to pit road, and then you got Kalis and Phipps also trying to see if they can't get some damage repaired. And tell you what, Andrew Phipps leaving it real late, trying to see if he can't get off of pit road while the pace car is still entering turn 1.
Yeah, saw him in the same shot there as the 25 machine was able to scoot on off of pit road. It is worth noting that Michael Johnson has claimed responsibility for the incident, so he will receive the end of the longest line penalty, hence the decision to come down pit road, basically a free pit stop. Paul Brigoli is no longer on the racetrack. He has officially retired from this race, so much like the Blue Jays, tough start to the season per se, as he is taking it to the garage. He is the only driver to DNF this race so far. Richard Wolsifer is 38th, 13 laps down. Eric Papineau is 37th, 2 laps down. Steve Durham 36th, 1 lap down. Everybody else otherwise still on the lead lap.
That's hurtful, man. I know the Blue Jays have had a bad start, but come on now.
Listen, it pains me to say it, so that makes it okay.
Phil, continuing.
Let me check now. I just want to make sure they're,
go ahead.
They're actively losing.
Oh,
yes,
are they?
They're
okay.
actively losing by 6 as we speak. So accurate analysis.
By 6? No kidding.
It's tough, man. 9-3.
9 oh my gosh. Okay. Well, remind me not to check out MLB then after tonight.
It's tough. Good thing I got my MLB TV so I can watch it and suffer. Yeah. Sports, am I right? Lights out on top of the pace car this time by. Yes, they are. So we will line up for the restart. Johnson has already been sent around to the rear, and your race leaders are on some 27 lap old tires. If you remember, it was a little bit shy of lap 27 at the start of this race, when we started to see drivers struggle with the handling, and it was the self-spin by Steve Tucker that brought out the first yellow flag of the night. We have seen drivers go as far as 43 laps on tires, but just keep that in mind as we inch closer and closer to halfway home in this Richmond 200. Phillip, no surprise here. He goes to the inside for the decision. The race leader has chosen the bottom every single time tonight. Pace car's gone. It is an early jump for the 94, and he's a mile ahead to turn 1.
And already 3 wide behind for second, down to turn 1, and contact going to be sending Nieto around up to the outside wall. Caution is out. We had a second spinner off of turn 2 as well, and now it's a parking lot down onto the back straightaway. Still got drivers flying in. I think I could see Kalis potentially stop up there. No, that's Gregory Shaw stopped the 66 car there on the top shelf. So a couple of incidents in this one. I have a feeling this second incident here, Evan, directly related to the one that we just saw over in turn 1 as well.
Yeah, Gregory Shaw is the second accident, and it only happens obviously because of the first. So you have to talk about what happened. 2 car to the outside of the front row. It had been a real consistent night to that point for that 2 machine of Sam Nieto, and it's a great jump for the 94 car. So Phillip's going to jump out ahead. You'll see the Geico restart zone. He's gone. But here comes to the inside of the racetrack, the 09, and then there, Harris goes inside of him. So they're 3 wide. Nieto doesn't know this, though. He takes the line like they're 2 wide. The 09's there. It sends the 2 car around. Yellow flag is out at that point, and then the additional wreck comes when Gregory Shaw goes to the apron. Right, everyone starts checking up. Watch, they start coming down. He goes low, gets the apron at speed, goes backwards, and that is where the second accident comes in.
And then from there, it's just a mess of everybody trying to stack it up behind to see if they can't try to find some way to get through, right? You can see the 71 car stopped in the bottom lane. That's Carl Pooler. He got turned just trying to check up for this mess. And that's the Has having a yellow flag, right? When everybody's so tightly condensed together like that, if you have one guy going around, you're bound to have everybody else go around too. And Durham, along with Shaw, going to be 2 drivers to pull it over behind the wall, this caution here.
So we sit now under caution flag number 5 and seem poised to surpass the benchmark from the 2022 fall race here at Richmond. Talked about that one a little bit earlier on tonight. That race had 7 yellow flags. Trends would probably suggest we'll top it, but it remains to be seen. I just remember how quaint and serene that everything was earlier in this race, Nolan, until you had said something about green flag runs at about lap 20. And then immediately afterwards, yellow flag has come out, and we have not had a 20-lap green flag run since then.
It's just like my luck. I mean, this past Saturday, I was calling a race, and I was mentioning about somebody had to start from pit road. They had fought back for being a lap down and were actively fighting for a top 5 to 30-car grid. As I was talking about her, she got shoved up into the outside wall and turned up onto a roof, ending her night. So it's been, shall we say, a pattern that's been going on as of late. I like to talk hypotheticals, and this has been something that I've been thinking more and more about, seeing this put into effect in a few more series. Choose cone rules. Obviously, iRacing doesn't have them. If they are to put them in, though, at some point in the future, how do you think these drivers would be handling such a thing?
Well, right now, these drivers only have the ability to choose for the control cars. So the only place where you'll ever see somebody get swapped out would be front row, right? Agno Phillip hasn't done it tonight. I don't expect to see it tonight. But if he were to choose the outside, for example, Cody Harris would be put to the bottom. The only row that is currently affected by that is the front row, because they're the only ones who can swap, right? Everybody else is locked in. I think in most cases, the choose rule is pretty null and void outside of the top 5, top 10. I know that, you can't say, well, the top 4 rows can choose and everybody else stay in line, because if 3 choose the bottom, then, you're taking the ability away from others. Right. I don't think it's had as much of an impact as we thought. I think the race leader being able to choose the lane, I think, has the most impact. And certainly if it came to the service, drivers would have the ability to basically give their input and vote on if they would like it to come. But I don't think it has that much of an impact. I think the race leader getting control is the biggest. And well, we talked about it. How about the outside? Phillip wants to go up top for the first time tonight. He's just as fast there. Green flag back in the air.
And already clear by 2, down to turn number 1. Cody Harris trying to see if he can't fend off David Kolb from behind, and Kostowitz from the outside. We're wrecking again. Manutsi Major and Grant Davis both up into the outside wall. Tail end of shot. It's the big one, number 4 off of turn number 2. And again, we have another caution.
The 24 was the first car I saw around, but seems like the 6 machine is not happy with the 38. So George and Danson are the two who are not happy as they run now. And you can see how the 24 gets the brunt of it. But what happened before that? Danson looking inside of the 6 and a little bit of a touch there. It was very similar to the last accident we saw where they were 3 wide.
You see drivers sliding in from behind. And I tell you what, Matt Danson giving people the bumper, that's been something that we've been seeing more and more of as time has gone along throughout the course of the season. He's made enemies this season, I think it's safe to say, as a result of that one. He's been a driver that it's been almost tough for him to try to find a spot where he hasn't been getting into somebody for a race or so, and well, he's going to continue to rack that up here tonight as he's going to knock Thomas George around. But I think the good news of Thomas George, considering what happened behind, he got out of that relatively okay. I'd imagine still very unhappy. He got a pretty good knock to the left front, but considering how everybody else had to essentially become a roadblock behind him, I think that little bit of a ding, it's not that bad when you consider what happened to the likes of Grant Davis, who got shoved to the outside wall a few times.
And it is interesting to note, Nolan, that Matt Danson claiming responsibility for the accident. I wasn't anticipating that, admittedly, because when it had happened, he was very adamant over the radio to the 6 car that, check the replay. I don't think so, but again, it's not like he just drove through him. A little bit of a de facto 3 wide, but Danson, maybe upon review, feels like maybe close enough to play it safe. Of course, if you claim the accident in the race, then your penalty points will be half of that. So if it is unclaimed, for example. So tough break there for Danson because he'll be sent to the rear.
It's been an interesting night so far, and the trend of yellow flags, it's coming up more and more frequently with every one that we tend to get. And in fact, this latest caution, it's going to again fall into a string of yellow flags that we have not gone more than a lap green twice in a row. Now the question is there going to be any sort of single file action? I can't remember the last time we've seen that in RSR, or if we've ever seen that in RSR, as a matter of fact. But sometimes, well, it's not popular, but sometimes drivers do have to need a little bit of a kick in the seat. Hey, you're getting a bit too aggressive. You still got over 100 laps to go. Do you really need to be making moves like that this early?
Couple drivers as well getting some penalties cleared as they come down to the pit lane under the yellow. And an unfortunate situation, Olin, of course, involved in one of the more recent ones, is that Andrew Freenosh is out of the car and out for all intents and purposes of this Richmond 200. Tough break for Matt Danson going to the rear. You got Freenosh out and a couple of the heavy hitters from the opening 30 gone.
I'm a bit surprised that Andrew Freenosh is out of the race, to be completely frank. I mean, he didn't actually get hit. I didn't think all that bad, but I guess maybe the damage was worse than we thought. I thought he only scraped up on the outside wall, and if that was it, he was good to go.
So we'll see. Pace car off. Phillip going to go back down to the bottom with 116 laps to go. Green flag back in the air.
Phillip again, clear by 1.5. Rodriguez side by side with Harris down to turns 1 and 2, and it's going to be Kolb just barely fitting in front of William Schmidt as we cross off after turn number 2, down for 3. A little bit of 3 wide in the back, but they're going to quickly get themselves sorted on out, and it's going to be Phillip to finally lead us on another green flag lap.
We talk about how Freenosh led the opening 44. Since then, it's been the Agnew Phillip show. He has led 36 of the 41 laps since then. Makari led 3 when he stayed out with some old tires. Cody Harris had an opportunity to lead 2, but Agnew Phillip closed it in on leading the most laps in this race. It's familiar territory for Agnew, already a 2-time race winner from Fontana. and Las Vegas earlier this year. The defending series champ is picked up right where he left off, and Esteban Rodriguez making some noise, Nolan. He is trying to crack the top two for the first time tonight now on the inside of Cody Harris.
Trying to get at the inside, but not going to get there into turns 1 and 2. Cody Harris continuing to hang on to the line, and now Harris going to fully clear down the back straight when it's turn numbers 3 and 4. So Esteban Rodriguez falling back to third, but crucially still pulling away from fourth on back. His teammate David Call from Pearsons of the Mustang playing rear gunner support with William Schmidt in the number 79 car, keeping that 79 from being able to make any sort of move in the SKS Graphics Chevy. And now that's going to put Schmidt under fire by Jason Staney.
A little bit of shouting going on midfield, as I referenced earlier, Nolan. Those short track tempers might be coming to play tonight, and Nieto obviously frustrated with the accident that he had earlier. He wasn't happy with the double O with Steve Tucker over the radio as they battle in the teens with each other. You can see that group of race cars now. They have sorted it out. The 18 and company, though, not yet, as Dunkelberger going to go underneath the XPM number 9 of Jaron Weinmaster for 8th and 9th.
Making a fairly good effort of it. Oh, and there it is. Dunkelberger sliding and saves it. Still trying to see if we can hold it together with Sean Casto on corner exit, and he will. But Ryan Dunkelberger getting into the 9 of Jaron Weinmaster, and that almost sent the 18 fully around.
It was a mistake by Dunkelberger to go deep into the corner, but credit to him for saving the race car, and credit to everybody else who came up behind him to avoid him, including Michael Johnson. Did a real good job in the 39 Ford of not running him over. It's going to cost Dunkelberger a ton of spots. He's down 7 from where he once was, but still he races on as now he finds himself in another battle back here with Michael Araya, the 44, not where I thought he'd be tonight.
No, not at all. And I tell you what, it's been a great run so far for a lot of the guys in this field that we didn't think we'd be seeing too much of. But here we are. We're seeing plenty of them right now as we continue to work our way towards halfway. And you tell the light started to change over Richmond Raceway as the sun gets closer and closer towards the horizon. Currently just shy of 4:30 in sim time. I reckon that sun's going to be setting here within the next hour or so.
Yeah, race start time in the sim of 3:30 p.m. Of course, these races are a half distance of what you see in the NASCAR Cup Series. Therefore, though, time of day moves twice as fast. So we are racing into the twilight hours here at Richmond. And, of course, spring forward didn't assist things either because that affects, obviously, where we are time-wise. But Richmond has got lights. No surprise, and no strangers either to night races here at Richmond. Would be fun to see how those changing track conditions could affect this race that's almost at that halfway point. Diagonal Phillip, don't even see him in a lot of these shots. That's how far ahead of the battle for second he is. A full second stands between him and this group. Harris, Rodriguez fight for second. Kolb and Saney fighting for fourth.
And on board now with Staney in the Freedom UK Mustang as he tries to track down David Kolb's Pure Sims machine and almost get up into the outside wall off of turn number 3 as these drivers continue to try to manage these tires and see if they can't get some runs off without being forced to go up and tag that outside wall. It's a great way to just destroy your momentum, but so far Staney doing a fine job on just keeping David Kolb honest, and the fact that he's not fighting that with him, it means they're able to start to pull away from Schmidt and Cato, the duo just right behind them. It's really 2x2 at the moment as it looks.
Just looking to see where that next move is going to come from. You got all these duos up here, right? Battle for second, battle for fourth, the battle for sixth as well. Schmidt and Cato hotly contested, just a little bit behind this group. As you can see, I think that's Mara slow on the apron of the racetrack through 3 to 4 and headed to pit road. Indeed it is Nicholas Mara. lead lap cars. So an interesting decision there, as this time by, we are halfway home from Richmond. 100 laps down, 100 laps to go, Nolan. Let's take a recap of where everybody stands and go through the field with a look at our RSR midway race break. Agno Phillip has now led more laps than anybody else tonight. His 51 in front has him as the race leader. He's 0.8 of a second ahead of the battle for second. Cody Harris sits there. He's led 2 laps tonight. Esteban Rodriguez in third, the highest he's been at any point in this Richmond 200. David Kolb up 19 spots. He has quietly snuck into P4, right now ahead of Jason Staney, who's P5. Ross Cato is 6th and Sam Nieto is 7th. And then a couple of more big movers. William Schmidt up 14 from where he started to sit 8th. And the biggest mover of the night, Jaron Weidemaster, up 26 positions. He sits in P9. But Tom Wetmore rounding out your top 10 right there.
Bradley Burke's on an up-and-up charge. He's plus 10 on the day, sitting in that 11th spot. It is plus 8 for Thomas George, sitting right behind him. Michael Johnson is up a few spots. He's up to 13th with Sean Casto now up to 14th. Michael Araya sits back at that 15th position as things stand a bit further down the field. Grant Davis is 16th, just ahead of this side-by-side fight between Brandon Bowie, who just fell back to 18th, with Matt Danson established himself in that 17th position. Just behind them, we got Ryan Dunkelberger and Minazzi Major trying to fend off Andrew Phipps for a top 20.
Just behind him, you got Andrew Phipps, who's trying to take that spot away from Minazzi Major. It's a good three-way battle that we're watching now, as behind them, Nick Alford, 22nd in his RSR debut, ahead of Nuno Flores, 23rd. Flores had been doing a little bit better than that, but involved in an accident on lap number 56. Went a lap down, had to take a lucky dog to get back to where he sits now. Steve Tucker involved in the very first accident of the night. He sits in 24th with Sean Kalis behind him in the number 25 spot. Brent Punkari, 26th. Brandon Fetter placed 27th. Richard Woodruff is 28th at the moment. Mike Kaczynski, 29th. And Carl Pooler in P30.
And of course, we start to enter cars that are no longer in contention for the win of this race. Spencer Koslowitz, the former pole sitter, how the mighty have fallen, sitting way back in the 31st position now, with Eric Papineau back in that 32nd spot. Nicholas Mara, the first driver fully out of this race, down in 33rd. Richard Wolsifer still on the racetrack, but 11 laps down, runs in 34th. Same story with Alexander Light. He is 15 down. Andrew Freenosh, the first driver fully DNF'd and out of the venue. He is 26 laps down. Roger Shaw, Steve Durham, and Paul Bergoli round out the rest of your 39-car field.
So look at the bottom at your midway race break, and talk about a breakaway for Agno Phillip, now 1.5 seconds ahead of Cody Harris, still second. Rodriguez has trailed a little bit off of his bumper. Kolb has fallen a little bit off of the bumper of Jason Staney. So all of that aggression inside of those top 5 spots or so is given away. You got to go all the way back to P8 to Jared Weinmaster before the first bit of action is there goes the 51 of Tom Wetmore to the inside with Burke watching on.
And now you got the 9 trying to track up and out, and how about that? The 9 getting up into the outside wall. Weinmaster now under fire. Bradley Burke shoots to the inside of turn number 3. As the mistake from Weinmaster will cost him a position. Got to hope there's not too much damage on the XPM Chevrolet. Tom Wetmore has cleared now for 8th. And just behind them, Michael Johnson keeping a battling duo of George and Casto at bay. Further up towards the front, though, you've still got the battle shaking on up with David Kolb and Sam Nieto.
And I'll tell you what, there is one determined driver behind the wheel of the number 2 Ford, because Sam Nieto, every time he gets to somebody, sounds like Kyle Busch on the radio, but he has been blitzing through the field after being involved in an accident not too long ago. That has driven his way all the way to P5, Nolan. He is not done yet. His last lap time better than every single car in front of him, including the race leaders. This time to the inside of Jason Staney in battle for 4th, and easy does it for the 2 car.
Oh, and a bit of a loose moment a bit further up the road for Esteban Rodriguez as well. He's able to gather it up. Sam Nieto still trying to keep Staney behind, and Kolb now seeing if he can get a little bit closer. And in fact, he actually lost a couple tenths of a second this last time through. And same story this lap. Sam Nieto started to pull away for the Pearsons duo behind them. And he is showing some more speed. He started to catch Esteban Rodriguez. 3/10 gain this last lap through. Nieto's on the hunt for a podium.
On the hunt for the podium as we watch all of these other battles take place. Want to welcome Andrew Freenosh back into the RSR booth. Andrew, I know it's not where you wanted to be here tonight after your race started off pretty good, qualifying in third and taking an early race lead, but we appreciate you jumping here with us once the car went behind the wall. Just kind of tell us what happened with your race tonight.
Yeah, we had a good car, just slid through the box and ended up back there, and it's just been a mess in that middle pack. Finally getting the green flag run here and able to stretch our, they're able to stretch their legs now. And you're really seeing Agnell Phillips start to pull away. I think he probably had one of the best long run cars. Sam might be on new tires, but you get Sam Nieto mad, and you're seeing it right now. He's all the way up to third. I think he might have fresher tires. Watch that 2 car because he was fast all night, and I think he's proving it right now as well.
Just made the pass there on the 16 of Rodriguez, so he is back in the top 3. Now a bit of a gap, though. He needs about a second to get to Cody Harris, and then it's another 2 seconds up the road to Agnell Phillip, but again, Nieto certainly locked in right now.
It very much is, and now we're starting to see Nieto even pull away from that third-place driver. Lap time at the line, 23.728. That is a few hundredths of a second quicker than Cody Harris up the road. So Nieto still has a lot of speed underneath that number 2 car. And I don't think it's going to be too long before we again start to see him track down Cody Harris and go even further up for spots in the podium. We look down to the Pearsons duo with Jason Stanley right in front of them, trying to see if he can't keep David Kolb at bay. Kolb trying to fight his way to a top 5, and behind them, even further, Grant Davis alongside Jaron Weinmaster.
Davis looking down to the inside of the racetrack. A bit of a touch there as the 9 car slides down. Andrew, one thing about Richmond that I always find so interesting is you really have to enter turn 1 specifically so high that the bottom is, I mean, wide open for somebody to try something, and we've seen that lead to at least a couple of incidents tonight. It seems to be a racetrack that's pretty tricky to be defensive at.
Yeah, and the fast way around this track is to plan it right on that line. You do a very wide arc because the front straightaway is arched like that. And it's the fast way to do it, but you leave it open, and people, you've seen it tonight, will dive bomb right down there. It's so inviting, and you can drive it in so much deeper on the inside, but you'll see people wash up and cause wrecks, and that's what's really happened tonight. I think this field is starting to thin out. Enough people have wrecked, and we're finally getting the green flag run. Is Sam Nieto, I mean, he's not done. He's going for second here.
3 wide with a little bit of lap traffic up and into the outside wall. No further incident there with Mike Kaczynski, and Sam Nieto gets another one. He now all the way up to the number 2 position. Way back when we restarted this race, it was lap number 84. He was scored at that time back in 20th spot. And now he's starting to think about going for the race lead. It has been a really impressive drive. 3.7 seconds, though, is a tall, tall number.
An incredibly tall number at that, and I have a feeling Phillip is there to stay in the race lead unless something else significant happens further towards the end of this race. We are in that second half, though, and this is where things could very easily get wild real quick, right? We saw all that aggression ramping up towards the end of the first half of this race. And I have a feeling if we get another yellow, it's only going to continue to escalate the further down we get. Stanley still side by side with Wetmore, as Wetmore trying to clear for 7th.
Wetmore's going to have it as they come off of the corner. Thought Kaczynski might have boxed him in. The 57, will have to try to find a way through. Again, Kaczynski doing everything he needs to, just staying high. But, man, is it going to hurt the 57 there, because Stanley is going to lose 4 spots just like that.
Yeah, tough break there for Jason Stanley as he's going to continue to tumble down the order. Michael Johnson, though, and Ross Cato, they're still locked in a bit of combat as well. And right behind them, Sean Casto and his Veloster Chevrolet still trying to look down for the inside line. I can tell you right now, Castro on a charge as well as Kato, started to drop back for the outside lane. Seems like that outer line not having nearly as much grip as it once did early in this race.
When we talk about taking that wide arc and planted it on the inside, Andrew, what else are some keys, especially maybe in a long run like this, of getting around Richmond fast?
You know, it's interesting. This setup here is very tight, but if you run the track right, you kind of want to stop center, and you really have to watch your gas coming on exit. Coming out of 2, the track kind of humps back and gets to that flat, and if you're too much on the throttle, you're going to spin it. And especially coming out of turn 4, you're almost not full throttle till the start line. It's very inviting to get on the gas a little too much, but you're going to spin out if you do it. So throttle control is a huge thing here. Maybe not as much as older cars, but definitely for this car, throttle control is still important. You're definitely shifting still. You're going into 5th gear right before you get into turn 1, so making sure you hit all your shift points right. Don't downshift too early. And again, I think you're seeing the cream rise to the top. Agnell Phillip, he's always had a good long run car. Sam Nieto, Cody Harris, all these guys are very good on the long run, and this field's getting spread out, so I wouldn't be surprised to see this go green another 20-30 laps, and then I think we're going to get cautions to the end.
72, the magic number of laps to go this time through. Matt Danson in his own charge back through the field as well, after getting an EOL for causing a caution to flag that he claimed. That one back on lap number 79. He is trying to get back inside of the top 10 now, to the inside of the 95 of Bradley Burke. A bit of a push from the 24. And Danson back in the top 10. He's somebody, Nolan, who certainly could benefit from a yellow because he's got speed, but again, his march to the field hindered by the fact that he's 9.5 seconds off of the race leader, despite the fact that he's in the top 10.
And I mean, I think that's something that's important to know, right? The fact that he's so far back behind the race leader, but while it may be 10 seconds behind the race leader, that's only 6 or 7 seconds behind Sam Nieto. And even Nieto and Cody Harris, they're 2 seconds up from David Kolb. So he's really not too far off from most of the drivers inside the top 10. It's really only the top 4 that have just pulled a monumental gap over everybody else here in what has so far been the longest green flag run of the evening, with Michael Johnson now trying to find the outside to get around Castle, or at least have a run on Castle. Maybe not try to get around him. Still a good car length and a half back. And you can tell, though, Johnson still has some faith in that upper line, as he's been dipping the nose and up on top, and a bit of smoke on the back straightaway, but no stopped car. So whatever the incident was, we're going to keep it green.
Get away with that one there. We've done that a couple of times tonight, where seemingly an incident has avoided a yellow. To be fair, we've also seen others where a little bit of contact has snowballed into some big ones. The number of yellows so far tonight stands at 6-7, was the number from the 2022 races. You see the 95 of Burke was trying to make a crossover. Jason Staney will bow out and head to pit road. He has been out there for 88 laps. That's the same number of the drivers that have been up front. Andrew, does it make sense then, 66 to go? Are we going to start seeing leaders come down?
I definitely think so. Last time I was in the car, we were told we were close on gas from my crew chief, so I don't know if they can make it or not. I really didn't have a fuel number all too well, but if they can make it, I think you're going to see a lot of these guys stay out, but with all these pit stops happening, I don't think they can make it. I think right about halfway, which is right about now, they're all going to have to start coming in and pitting. More for tires for some of these guys. I'm sure the handlings start to go away, but some might need just a little bit of gas to make it to the end.
And crossed our finish line with 65 laps to go. Minazzi Major now starting to see if he can't close up to the back end of Grant Davis. Michael O'Raya seeing if he can't stick a nose down the inside as well to the Sprite Chevy. I kind of like the line Minazzi Major is taking here, Evan. He's been kind of taking a very wide entry, but then trying to diamond off the corners, almost going for that double apex line, right? Enter low, push out wide, then exit low as well. It's allowing him to sit right to the back bumper of Davis, but you have to be careful of O'Raya. We've seen what happens before when you leave that door open and somebody goes for that sneak attack down the inside.
You got to be defensive minded while trying to make forward progression, and Lorian not a good exit that time off of 2, almost opened up the door to the 25 of Andrew Phipps to get underneath him. Phipps, though, not forcing the issue, and you can see now going to blaze through this group here is the 18 car as big moves for Ryan Dunkelberger. He pitted 12 laps ago, so this is just a good visual representation of how much slower all of these leaders are compared to what they were at the start of the run. You will see a couple of those lapped cars making their headway, and look out, contact, the 56 is sideways, and he hangs on as Wolsifer got sent on the entry to 3. That was by the 30 of Mike Kuczynski on fresh tires.
Just tried to make that lunge and didn't end up going the way he thought. Richard Wolsifer got shoved up into Brandon Fetterplace, and it was a heck of a save from all involved. And meanwhile, William Schmidt, I think he said, thank you very much. Let me sweep on through and not have to worry about fighting any of you guys now, as we're going to look back up now to the live pictures, and the battle is running down to turn numbers 3 and 4.
You jumping back up to see the David Kolb and Co battle. Again, the 18 car, fresh tires, just simply trying to get through with minimal impact on the leaders. And Michael Johnson does a good job of clearing space for the 18 to pass without compromising himself against Kolb. I mean, impressive runs tonight for the likes of Johnson and Kolb. And there is the caution. Couple of cars into the wall in turn number 2. Steve Tucker is one of them. The second time he's been in an accident, and we will slow things down.
So you mentioned before Tucker involved for the second incident tonight, and I think this one again going to be all self-inflicted for himself. And you also saw Carl Pooler got involved, and I'm noticing now as well that the 34 of Brandon Fetterplace has got a lot of front-end damage that he did not have a second ago, so I'd be hard-pressed to say he wasn't involved as well. We look back to the RaceSpotTV replay, trying to make a move at the inside of Weimesser, clips the apron, he's going to spin around, and there's the hit from Bowie to the outside wall, and then, oh, man, Carl Pooler got loose and shot up and just clotheslined the 00. But this takes pit strategy right out of it now, as it's going to be Agno Phillip leading the field down onto pit road. And Andrew, I'm going to come to you with this one. I mean, at this point in time, you've been kind of in lockstep this whole race. You just had a long green flag run, but you know you've got just over 50 laps to go. We saw all that aggression early in this race. Do you think it's going to be even more so when we come down to the restart here?
I think we're going to see a lot more aggression than we've seen all race. Chances are we're going to have cautions on top of cautions. You know what they say, cautions cause cautions. So I think we're going to just see a lot of these guys going hard. A lot of close quarter racing, but I think there's going to be a lot of yellows. And I don't know if you can even try to save tires here. I think some of these guys are just going to go for it and hope you get cautions on cautions where tire wear doesn't matter.
14.9 seconds in the box will allow Agno Phillip to maintain his race lead off of pit road. But Nieto, who was faster than Phillip on the very end of that last run, remember when he made the move for second, he was nearly 4 seconds off. By the time the yellow came out, it was about a 3.2 second gap. So Nieto was chipping away, but I don't think it was going to be enough to get there in time. And now, biggest benefit for the yellow is all of that gap is erased, and he'll find himself alongside the 94 Nolan.
Oh, absolutely. And you know that means it's going to be right down to the wire for a lot of drivers now in that race. You're all on fresh rubber. Pit stops out of the question. There's a good chunk of cars in front of Agno Phillip here that are staying out to get laps back. That includes Schmidt, Stanley, Weimeister, Bowie. These guys all banking on the fact that these drivers might be getting themselves another yellow flag that allows them to come down and get on the same cycle.
many drivers as well. You can see actually ahead of Agnell Phillip of the racetrack going to be looking for wave arounds that'll include Bowie, Windmaster, Staney, and Schmidt to stay on the lead lap, and then even more drivers multiple laps down, simply trying to get into a slightly better position. This race, 23 cars still on the lead lap at this point. I'd put the number of cars actively still on the racetrack at about 35 or so. So plenty of points still to be dished out. But I will also join in agreement with Andrew that, you know, you get a late race yellow like this after a long run, and it's just going to be tough to really spread our wings here. We'll see. But we saw a lot of aggressive and I would say frustrated racing from drivers in the middle portion of the race, and now with the checkered flag looming large, I think we're going to see a lot more of it.
Could not agree with you more. It's going to be an aggressive race at the end, and I have a feeling we're not done with that yellow flag yet. You mentioned 7 cautions last year. We've matched that number. Something tells me we might be hitting not triple digits, goodness, but double digits at least by the end of this race. The pace car going to pull down and in. Agnell Phillip will enter the Geico restart zone and take us back down to the green flag.
It's another good start for the 94 of Agnell Phillip, and now the 2 at Nieto has a fight on his hands because Cody Harris drives alongside from 3rd, and the battle is going to be for 2nd, off to 3 and 4. Battling behind as well, it's Johnson and Casto in the fight for 4th, but in the battle for P2, Nieto a slight advantage at the line.
Only a slight advantage on that one, though, and he needs a lot more than that if he wants to catch Phillip before he can pull away. Clears Harris as he jumps down low into 3 and 4. No, he doesn't. Cody Harris still had just enough of a nose out that Nieto didn't feel safe on jumping down to the line. Now they'll be able to do so as Harris going to fall back in for that 3rd position. And now, question is, can Sam Nieto try to chase after Agnell Phillip now that they're all on the same tires?
And Nieto does indeed win the battle for P2, so Harris settles for 3rd. Johnson from 4th, single file. Then the battle is 5th on back as Esteban Rodriguez was as high as 3rd at a point in this race tonight. He's got his Pure Sims teammate, the Brani Nana Cobb, right there to the outside, all fighting with the 52 of Casto.
Screaming down to the inside, 2 by 2, down off of 3 and 4. Wetmore Rodriguez on the inside, Casto and Kolb on the outside. It's a pure sim duo in the mix here, but they're both on separate lines. They cannot help each other out. And at the moment, everybody in this train being held up from the top 4. A bit of scrape to the outside wall for Sean Casto as they exited turn number 2. And looking to try to pinch Rodriguez in off of turn number 4.
Really tight on each other's door as they go off to turn number 1. Not much that Casto can do there. He's up on the outside, needs a good run off the corner, not gonna get it, and Rodriguez clears. So that's 2 spots lost from Casto since the restart. He'll jump down before Wetmore can do some more damage, but not a great couple of laps for Casto. He's still well into the green on the night, but wants to make up after he's lost some spots the last few laps. Thought about the inside, but Rodriguez seals it off.
Gap closed for Rodriguez up front to Cody Harris, running in that 3rd spot. Still trying to see if he can hound after San Nieto. Nieto has not been allowing for Agnell Phillip to break away from him. The gap has been fluctuating greatly. It's a few hundreds gained here, a few hundreds lost there. But San Nieto, he's going to be looking to keep Phillip on blast all the way down throughout these last 46 laps.
And you've had the opportunity, Andrew, to go head-to-head with Agnell so many times. Sam Nieto trying to catch that 94. How tough's that going to be, and what is Agnell so good at when he's in the lead in terms of defending it and not kind of giving you opportunities?
Yeah, just watching these last few laps, Agnell, his car is smooth. He's hitting his line right on the bottom, no wiggle. It looks like Sam's overdriving a little bit. Center, he's washing up a little bit too much and a little too free on exit. So I think Agnell's just good at running his own pace, taking his time, saving his tires just in case this does go green. And I think Sam's just attacking a little too much. So that's what it looks like from up here. I don't know in the car though, because I think the clean air is worth something. It's weird to say that at a short track, but it definitely looks like it handles better out front than it does as the car trailing.
Last lap, Nieto better only slightly, a 22.779 for Phillip. It was a 7.33 in favor of Sam Nieto. This time by, it flips, 8.26 for Phillip. That's faster than the 8.64 for Nieto.
And continuing to go side by side deeper in the pack as well as we continue to watch this gap fluctuate up and down throughout the field. Agno Phillip still holding on to that race lead. He has by far led the most laps out of anybody this race, and now pulls that gap out to about 0.4 of a second. It really is kind of hanging right in that balance, right, of around 3.5 to 4.5 of a second. Nieto able to close up a little bit, but not able to really break through that bubble and try to push through up into the end. So this will be a rough ride for these guys trying to get something sorted, as we'll jump back now to take a look at this fight between Wetmore and Kolb, still raging on, and now almost with contact between the 99 and the 51 through 1 and 2.
And look at Danson now in this battle. He'll make a big swing to the bottom, but holds it off. Had the chance to get under the 51, but Danson doesn't force the issue there. Kolb continuing to fight with the number 99 machine, the 51 Wetmore down low, and then you watch Danson behind them. You've got Davis, Lariah, and more, but Danson seeming to want to be a little bit more methodical about this and not force the issue. 38 laps to go at Richmond. Bit of a touch that time as they came off the corner, and it loosened up Danson just enough for Lariah to get to his bumper, and Lariah going to go to the outside of the 38 car now.
And pulling clear, David Kolb able to get around Tom Wetmore finally, but not for long as Wetmore trying to go for the bump and run. Nudges Kolb up the racetrack. Here comes Matt Danson trying to chop down to the inside. He's going to go for the lunge. And Wetmore, though, look at him flying around the outside line. Now he's going to be the one that's got the upper hand. Kolb on the bottom. Danson again looking for 3 wide. No room. The 38's forced to back out.
Almost looked like Danson's going to keep showing that nose, hoping that the 99 Kolb gives him the space. If he does it, though, maybe he's not going to take it. Does that happen in one? Much more forceful this time. He's tired of waiting around, and Danson going to force his way to the inside of Kolb. All kinds of contact. The Kolb car goes into the outside wall on the exit in turn 2, but now in 3 and 4, still side by side, and Wetmore wants to get out of Dodge as they are getting physical for P8.
And David Kolb going to be livid at the moment that Tom Wetmore has broken clear, and he's just been forced to mire back down in the field. Danson finally gets clear, and now Kolb can finally focus on trying to go on the offense instead of staying on defense the entire time. Though maybe he'll have to be put on defense one more time, as now is Lariah to try to put Kolb down another.
When it rains, it pours. It's sometimes how it works, and you don't have much time to lick your wounds. If you lose the spot, you got to get right back up on the horse, or these drivers are going to make you pay. And you can see that 52 car up in front trying to skirt away the 38 of Danson. Close call there with lap traffic, and Kuczynski up on the outside of the racetrack, and it is kind of clog things up here at the tail end of the top 10 as Michael Lariah is almost all the way clear of Kolb. Kolb has had such an impressive night, and you hate to see him start to lose spots late, but they're coming to quick. Lariah's through, and now Davis wants to do the same.
Davis looking for the inside on David Kolb. I think Kolb may have burned all of his rubber up, right? I mean, he spends so much time trying to fight these guys off of the inside lane, and we've talked about that before. You do that, and everybody starts to get around you. You're burning up your tires anyway, and now Kolb can't even go on the offense around the outside line. Meanwhile, for the likes of Johnson, Nieto, and Harris, it's not looking good as Agnell Phillip has walked out almost a second lead again.
Here's the onboard look with the Challenger. Sam Nieto has slipped to about a 9/10 of a second gap between he and race leader Agnell Phillip. Right now, 8/10 of a second, no change there. You can watch those intervals on the scoring pylon left-hand side of your screen. In fact, a lot of the battle inside of the top 10 as well has single filed out and calmed, at least for a moment.
I think that's the key turn of phrase here, right? It is for a moment. It very much could pick up in a heartbeat if everything starts to kick off again. You can see Matt Dancer trying to work his way around Brandon Fetterplace. Fetterplace scores Meyer back at that 29th spot, 7 laps down, a race win off the cards for the number 34 Battle Beaver Camry, as we'll track back down onto the front straightaway. Now going to be just 35. Sorry, make that I'm a bit further. I'm a bit off on this one. 28 laps remaining here from the Richmond 200 as once again Tom Wetmore tracking off of turn number 2 and trying to get up to Sean Casto into 3.
"27 laps to go from iRacing's Richmond Raceway for round number 6 of the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Agnell Phillip leads the way coming into tonight's race, a 2-time race winner to this point this year, leads the championship standings in the A51 Pro X Altus Alliance, and he wants more, looking for race win number 3 in start 6, but he needs to keep the pace up as Nieto still within distance that any mistake by the 94 will have the 2 right there. And also maybe his even bigger foe is slowly watching these laps tick away.
And Nieto going to continue to track strong as he'll now try to hunt down once again Agnell Phillip, but it is still going to be a rough ride if he wants to reel in 3/4 of a second or good 8/10. And I think overall this is Phillip's race to lose. He has proven that he has got the pace, both short and long, to stay up in front. And Phillip at the moment, he's looking like he's going to be the guy that's going to be smooth sailing when it's all said and done. He has been in complete control of this race ever since he took it over from 7th. It makes you wonder almost if he had a mishap in his qualifying run.
You can see Danson making some work a little bit further on back, not for position. That was Eric Papineau, who is 6 laps down. His Meineke 37 Camaro just staying high, staying out of the way. Danson, the caboose of this 4-car group. Casto 6th, Wetmore 7th, Lariah 8th, and then Danson in 9th. This group right here, and it is some of the tightest stuff on track. There's some side-by-side further on down the road back in the teens. As you can see, that 44 car, Lariah, in fact, trying to go to the inside. It can't get 2x2, and he'll have to reset and try again.
Lariah trying to hang on as Wetmore started to really apply that pressure here off of turn number 4 into that front straightaway. Matt Danson, you see right behind. Danson has had a bit of a topsy-turvy day, to say the very least, but he's been doing a good job to keep that Logitech GL2Z Sports 38 Chevy up here in the top 10, and he's trying to see if he can't hunt down, at the very least, a 7th place finish before the end of the night.
Realistically, these laps not that long at a Richmond. Drivers running in the mid 23-second bracket, but Andrew, you've had many a large race leads over the years. They feel a lot slower when you're in a comfortable spot just waiting to get to the white flag.
Yep, I know when I was always in this spot leading a race late, my thought was, what are we going to do when the caution comes out? Because in your head, it's always going to come out. This would even be more nerve-wracking the closer you get to the end. Do you stay out? Do you take 2 tires? I think right now, if caution comes out, it's an easy 4-tire stop for everybody. But the closer you get, the more that strategy can open up for 2 tires, no tires staying out. So Yeah, I think Agnell right now, minus the caution, has this pretty much in the bag. I think he saved tires. I think he's still not going 100%, and he's still keeping about a 6, 7, 10th lead. I think he can pick it up if he wants to, but right now he's looking good, working around lap traffic, you know, taking his time right now.
Some more traffic up the road, and Richard Wolsifer sees the faster cars coming and will yield to the outside of the racetrack, so no issue there at the front of the field. And you can see that bit of action I talked about in the teens is really where most of the excitement's been the last 5 laps. Bradley Burke fighting with David Kolb, who has just continued to really struggle late in this race, losing all the time that he gained, and a bit of frustration there as he gives a shot to the 95 of Bradley Burke, but it's only going to be one and done. He's not fast enough to get back to Burke, and now Benazzi Major takes his turn.
Major to the inside, trying to see if he can't get it with Kolb, and Kolb going to continue to fight him off at the top shelf, but Benazzi Major, contact! Going to nudge the 99 car up with that second groove, but he's going to get clear. Now Kolb bobbles off the exit. And here comes Ross Cato, trying to see if he can't capitalize on the mistake. He won't be able to. Actually he will, as Kolb also botches the turn 3 entry. And now Ross Cato going to make that move for 13th.
He got stuck on that outside early in the run, and you're really seeing it now. The tires are shot. He was stuck up there for 10, 20 laps, and he's been falling like a rock ever since we got like 20, 30 laps into this run.
Tough. When we restarted after the post racing yellow, David Kolb was in P6. He had worked all night to get to that position, and he might very well end up minus 10 from that spot before this thing is said and done. Danson still in a hotly contested battle. He had a pretty good charge through the field that slowed down once he got to the cusp of the top 10, and in fact it may take a step backwards for the first time in quite a while, but bit of a twitch there for Davis. So Davis unable to complete the pass on the bottom. He'll tuck in line and try again. These two cars fighting for 9th and 10th.
I think he's going to have to continue to work with what little he's got left in the tank here at the moment. I mean, as Matt Danson is looking to be almost more on defense now, as Grant Davis has been really hounding the mirrors of that number 38 car. It's going to be 11 to go here at the line, and now they're going to get around a lap car. Richard Wolsifer not going to give them any troubles as they'll cross off at turn number 4. And up front, the fight for 5th. Esteban Rodriguez trying to fend off Michael Laraya, and Laraya trying to get something happening on the inside. Still holding for that shallow entry into turn number 3, and Rodriguez might be able to fend him off with a wide line through 4.
Laraya going to toss it off to the inside into turn number 1, and as they exit on 2, Rodriguez hangs the back end out a little bit, aggressive on the throttle. Going to do everything he can to maintain this top 5 finish. Laraya started at 14th. He's been chipping away after we pointed out, Nolan, we thought he'd be doing better in this race than he was at the halfway point. It's not going to matter. Caution with 8 laps to go in this race. And it is Mike Kuczynski around in the inside of turn number 2, 3 laps down in 27th.
And that was Agnell Phillips' worst nightmare. Strategy is wide open now.
Gonna take a look at the replay here. Taking a really wide line and just hooks that apron and loses the car. Tags the inside wall. That is a weird one, Evan, if you're asking me. I mean, that was a very wide line in the 1 and 2, and a very aggressive jump down to the inside. He's going to take responsibility.
No surprise that it's going to be a claimed one for the 30 of Kuczynski, and we've seen many drivers put the 2 on the apron and spin around. This time, though, it's a driver all on his own. Here we go, though. It was all but locked up for Agnell Phillip. Now he needs to survive one final trip to pit road. Here come the race leaders.
And to fill it down into the box, and it's a clean entry for the 94 car. This could be what it needs to try to hang on to his race lead here. This will be critical here. It is money stop time. Off of pit road, though, is going to be Sean Casto, who's going to inherit the race lead. So Casto goes to the point after he takes right sides only.
And so does Matt Danson. He will go from 10th to 2nd, right side tires only. 2 drivers go for 2, everybody else on 4. Is there any way, Andrew, that 2-tire call works out with the trip to victory lane? We've seen a split strategy earlier. It wasn't a 2-tire call, but we did see some drivers stay out on old tires. They were 20 laps old, and they did not fare very well. This time, these drivers going to be on, nearly 50, 60 lap older tires, but on 2.
It might work out, Evan. We're still pacing right now, so there might be about 4 laps to go. If we go green and get a caution, I think they're really good. We saw Agnell Phillip earlier in the year at Phoenix. He fell to 3rd, but he still did have pace. We saw last year, that's how he won the championship, was he had pace for 3 or 4 laps. So I'm not going to put it past Casto and Danson, really good drivers. Agnell Phillip's going to have to be on it, because I think if we get single filed out, I think Sean Casto's in the best spot right now. So it definitely could work. I think if we go green to the end, though, I think Agnell gets around both of them.
And we will see just who ends up victorious in the end of this Richmond 200. Papanow, Kalis, and Amara will stay out. They'll look for wave rounds. The lights still on top of the pace car. I think the shorter the run to the end, the better it will be, as if they go out next time by, we'll be left with, at most, Nolan, a 4-lap shootout.
And that's how you know it's going to end up being a wild one, right? It's going to be down to a 3-lap shootout even, as the pace car lights are still on as we get set to come to 4 to go. So this is going to get, shall I say, intense. Odds are, I'm willing to bet a good 70-30 that we end up with an overtime attempt here, this one. As lights go out, 3 laps will be the distance.
Decision on the front row. Looks like Casto to the inside. There was no way, no matter which lane he chose, that one of the cars on 4 tires was going to end up on the front row. Of course, we had that discussion earlier about lane choice and choose rules, and actually how much flexibility there is here in a full throttle RealSimRacing Cup Series race. And the number ends up at a 3-lap shootout. So 2 tires on the front row. Casto, the control car, chooses the inside. It's going to be Danson to the outside. Then Agnell Phillip, who's led the most laps on the inside of row 2 in 3rd. And a hungry number 2 is Sam Nieto to the outside in 4th. Green flag in the air. Great jump for the 52 car. He'll lead to turn 1, but the inside opens up for Phillip for P2.
Oh, wrecking into turn 1. Wetmore just got dumped, and he's going to crash up into the outside wall. And that's it. Green-white check on attempt number 1 coming on up for you, as Wetmore again gets turned to the outside wall. For what is this, the 3rd time now today?
And I think this one is more his fault. Let's take a look. Wetmore tries to squeeze between the 44 and the 25. He wanted to get to the bottom, but wasn't a hole there.
I think that was that Phipps that ended up getting into him as well when Wetmore went around. It was a bit of a wacky hit as well, and poor Grant Davis, know where his Seam Design Chevy could go. He got clipped by the 51 as he slid off the racetrack, while Thomas George hit him square in the passenger door as he slid back up onto the racetrack. So, well, that's going to put us now to green-white at checkered attempt number 1 of 3. And, of course, rules are, you make it back to the white flag, we're good no matter what happens. But if we have what we just saw happen, well, then we're going to reset, try it again.
Up to 3 attempts at it is probably, I don't know if this is good news or bad news for Casto. I mean, the least amount of laps of green flag race at Andrew, the better, right? So in theory, it's going to be easier to defend for 2 versus 3, but man, did he have a really, really good jump there.
He really did, and I was shocked. Matt Danson was almost clear Agnell Phillip going into turn 1, so these 2 tires, at least for that very short sample we had, were hanging on pretty well. right now I think they probably want to go green to the end, just get the 2 laps and see what they could do, because if that one corner is evident of what's going to happen, I think they'll be all right.
Wave rounds will go on through. Still more pacing left. I think Casto obviously got what he wanted out of the inside line. The key for him, Nolan's going to be obviously the fact that Nieto and Phillip don't gain anything there. So it's still the cars on 2 tires on the front row, right? If he had to deal with Phillip alongside, this would have been a lot more challenging. And I think just good timing on the yellow, because wait an extra 10 seconds, I think Phillip would have been scored P2. What he needs is exactly what had just happened there. Get the jump, and then he needs Phillip to get stuck inside of Danson, so he can't take the optimal corner exit. He's got the 38 alongside. That's the only hesitation he needs to have a chance.
I agree, and I think that one moment of hesitation, it could very well be what decides this race if it even comes up. If Casto can launch well like he did off this latest restart, he's going to be smooth sailing. But I think, again, it's such a tough thing to call, right? I mean, part of why he got that big jump is because Danson spun up the rear tires and stacked up the outside line. And obviously, there's nothing Phillip can do when you're starting right behind the 52 car. It's all going to be if Danson could try to get back to him by the time they get down to turn number 1. That initial drag race could very well decide this. Phillip's still on fresh rubber, right, with the 4 tires over the 2, which does play to some advantages for Phillip. But of course, those 2 tires, we've seen it before on a 2-lap stint. It can pay off. I mean, Phillip himself has made that call.
Only 5 drivers have started more RealSimRacing Full Throttle Cup Series races all time than Sean Casto tonight in career start number 188. He has been to victory lane but once, looking for his 2nd career win here tonight. This will be attempt number 1 of 3 at a green-white checker overtime restart. If we get to the white flag, this race will end under green at the checker. However, if the caution comes out with 2 laps to go still, we'll re-rack them and try it again. Pace car going to be in right now. The 52 Casto, 2 tires on the inside of the front row. Green flag in the air. One more try at this in overtime, and Phillip stuck alongside Danson.
Casto still clear by 2, down in turn numbers 1 and 2, trying to see if we can't make it down to that 1 lap to get to the white flag. We only need the 1, and then from there, these guys can wreck as much as they want into 3 and 4, and it is still Sean Casto with the lead. Phillip clear for 2nd off of turn number 4.
Agnew Phillip's clear, but he needs to make up 3 car lengths. Is the 4-tire advantage gonna be enough? Harris to the inside of Danson. That fight's gonna be for 2nd. Here comes Agnew Phillip. No! He gets loose off of 2 and gets into the outside wall. Casto to the inside. One final time. Phillip not gonna be there, and Sean Casto returns to Full Throttle Cup Series victory lane tonight at Richmond.
How about that? What an upset for Sean Casto. If you pegged any driver to go for a win in these last 50 laps, Casto was not going to be the one I would have selected. Started this race back in 17th, was quietly working his way through the field, made a gutsy call right when it mattered, and that's going to net Sean Casto a race win.
So good to see a veteran of this league get a win like that. He made the call. They just had to go green GWC, which is what happened. They kept wrecking, and that was a heck of a call, heck of a win. Way to go. Congratulations to him.
And I'll admit, I did not have a lot of faith in the 2-tire decision, Andrew, but you said right away it was possible, and Agnew Phillip got clear at the 1 to go. He knew he had to push, and I think once he got into the outside wall in turn 2, it was done.
Yep, he was going to have to send him in turn 3 even if he had the run. Matt Danson kind of pinched him down there till they got the white flag of when Agnew got cleared off of 4, and it's not enough time 1 lap, especially at a short track here. So what a drive by Casto. I mean, just to do the call and do what he just did, he's celebrating like he should. That was an amazing call, an amazing win by him. He does a little jump there.
Yeah, he's going to have a long celebration as he's going to enjoy this one as Sean Casto a winner again in the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series. Let's take a look at your full race results for what ended up being the Richmond 205. It is the Bowie Esports Chevrolet leading a bow tie heavy top 10 as he gets the win by 0.2 of a second over Agado Phillip in P2 and Matt Danson in third, who we'll try to talk with all in just a few moments. Cody Harris and Sam Nieto end up with top 5 finishes tonight ahead of the likes of Esteban Rodriguez, Michael Araya. You got Manazzi Major up 20. He finishes just ahead of Phipps P9 and Grant Davis in 10th.
11th place holds the likes of Michael Johnson with Ross Cato. Started up with the top 10, but he'll be finished back in that 12th spot. Thomas George had a good run. He and Bradley Burke are both +7 on the day. They finish in 13th and 14th. David Kolb moves up 8th to finish in 15th. Jason Stanley, a bad day for him, though. Started up in the top 5. He ends up relegating himself down to the 16th spot, though, with Ryan Dunkelberger back at 17th. Brandon Bowie, Nahoyne Flores, and Jaron Weimaster round out the top 20.
And 21st tonight goes to Wetmore with Schmidt, Alford, Pancari, and Woodruff, the top 25. So a good showing for Nick Alford in his first start of 2023. Kalis ends up in 26th. Eric Papineau, Brandon Feder plays, Steve Tucker, and Nick Mara round out the top 30.
And that's going to leave Alexander Light down in 31st place in the used car lot, along with Richard Wolfsfer, Michael Kuczynski, Spencer Kostowitz, Carl Pooler, Andrew Friedosh, Gregory Shaw, Steve Durbin, Paul Bergoli round out tonight's 39-car field for the Richmond 200.
So look top to bottom at your full race results tonight from Richmond. Let's talk with your race winner. It's the 52 Chevrolet of Sean Casto in victory lane tonight at Richmond. We are stood by with him now. Career win number 2. Sean, congratulations on the win. We'll talk about the journey in a minute, but first, the decision to go for 2 tires. Walk us through that and then playing defense there at the end.
Hell yeah, boys. Talked about it last time I talked to you guys. It's all about practice. We ran several scenarios. 2 tires was, again, involved in that. I think last time I was up here it was 2 tires. It's, yeah, you got to practice with a purpose. We did that, and it was about maintaining, not driving through your tires. Drove through the field there at one point and decided to put myself in the back. But yeah, no, it was strategy and confidence in your preparation.
Tell us about the night leading up to the 2-tire decision, right? You talk about managing the tires. This one, a long one, 200 laps. How was the night for you, and what did you learn before it was decision time there at the end?
Yeah, you know, it's a pinball event. You get any sort of bottleneck on the back straight like we had earlier, and it's, you know, you just hope the guy behind you sees it at the same time you do. And so, you know, you try to avoid that, try to keep yourself in front as much as possible once you get there. And then you want to be the first to pit last. And then whenever you do that, you know, if you know, there's all sorts of ways to get there. But yeah, we were just trying to stay out of trouble, ride, create a bubble. Old Bristol, you try to form yourself. In Martinsville, you try to form yourself a bubble, keep some air in the front, in the back. Know who you're running around, build your gaps, save tires, charge when needed.
First career win came back in 2021 at the Talladega Superspeedway. I know anybody's first win always ranks so high. How does this one compare doing it at a tough racetrack like this and beating out the competition that you did?
Last time, plate racing, it's fun. We had a big old team event that race. I was pretty much handed that win, and I'll admit that. But yeah, this win obviously well exceeds that. It's always nice to lock yourself into the chase, playoffs, whatever we're calling it. Yeah, no, this one we went out and we grabbed, so that was fun.
Tell us about the name on that 52 car, and thank anybody else who makes this happen for you.
Absolutely, gotta first thank Brandon Bowie Esports. He and the team, he's a simulator, has really brought us all further. Steve had a great night as well. We've kind of brought Thomas George on deck with us unofficially. He's a good help, good veteran leadership. Shop 10% Velocity. You log on Velocity USA website, you can buy yourself some stuff for about 10% off. That's $100 off every $1,000. You know.
Well, I'll tell you what, it looked good. Finish it up front here tonight at Richmond. Sean, we appreciate you being a part of this series on Monday nights, and congratulations on the win.
Boys, I appreciate everything you do up top. Thank you.
He's a race winner tonight in the Richmond 200. Sean Casto parks it with his first win of 2023 and he is playoff bound. Well, the other 2 drivers involved in this were up front for a lot more of it, including Agnell Philip Nolan. He led 144, but didn't make the right call when it came down to strategy at the end. He settles for second, and you're with the driver of the 94 now.
I certainly am, and I tell you what, Agnell, you may not have gotten the race win, but for the rest of it, you absolutely dominated Richmond tonight, and considering how many laps you ended up leading, I have to ask, what happened in the qualifying effort to see you start in 7th?
Well, I couldn't tell you. I guess I just didn't hit the lap. I mean, it wasn't that far off, but yeah, sometimes you hit the lap and sometimes you don't, and that time I didn't hit the lap, so it's all right. I mean, clearly in the race we showed what the pace actually was, which is, it's always nice when you can do that in these races when they have like long green runs and you have a chance to really kind of separate a little bit. So yeah, it was an overall fun race, and I had a really good initial start, so made up for the slightly less than ideal qualifying effort.
And of course, with all those laps led, you were able to stay out in front of all the carnage that took place behind you. Why don't you walk us through what it's like and how different it is to be able to just kind of walk away and see that gap dissipating behind you, as opposed to having to worry about door banging when it gets down to a short track like this?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty calm most of that race. I was a little stressed in the middle there when we had a few pit cycles or a few cautions, and some guys had come in and gotten tires and gotten fuel, and I was worried if it went green all the way, I wasn't going to be able to make it. I figured somebody in that bunch could have, and I just didn't want to be on the wrong end of pitting and then going a lap down, getting trapped a lap down like some of those guys were. So I mean, it wasn't like stress-free per se, but it was definitely in the practice and some of the official races I did at Richmond before this race, I wasn't particularly fast. I wouldn't call this one of my best tracks, so I think the clean air really helped mask some of that, and was able to kind of manage the gaps and stay in front of it, because once you kind of get back in the thick of things, it's kind of hard to make spots back up. So overall not too bad.
We take a 1-week break here, and we get set to go back racing, and it's going to be kicking up some dust clouds over at the Bristol Motor Speedway in Tennessee for the Bristol Dirt Race, the lone dirt race of the season. What's your thoughts as we get set to go and go back to some grassroots racing over in Tennessee?
I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of dirt racing generally, and it'll be exciting for the fans, I'm sure. But I'm not necessarily, it's not one of my best tracks, so I'm not really, ecstatic about it. But we'll do the best we can there and try to make some progress. I've been trying to get a little bit better at dirt racing lately, so we'll see how all that goes. And once we kind of get back on the asphalt, I'm kind of hoping we can get to a place where we can finish out some of these green runs. It feels like every week something kind of throws a wrench in the strategy right at the end of these races, when it doesn't always seem like it's necessary. I can't speak too much, because I think the last time we were at Richmond, I was the one who brought out the caution with like 2 or 3 to go, but it is kind of we've let a lot of laps this year, and I think the results have been pretty good, but I think that in a couple of those races we should have finished a position or 2 better and really have a good padding in the playoff points on this one. So you can't really control it, but I hope when we come back, folks will we'll all have kind of adjusted to racing with each other and can really try and race these out, because I think there were some good battles that have been going on when we've been going green. So I'm looking forward to kind of the chiller part of the schedule, so to speak.
Well, it's a pleasure to always be able to talk to you up here, Agnell. Congratulations on the 2nd place tonight. Best of luck when we go racing in 2 weeks over at the Bristol Dirt Track.
Thanks, Nolan. Appreciate it.
How's that, Phillip joining us up here? Second place and runner-up to one Sean Casto at the end of the night. We'll move on down to the third driver that is on the podium, and of course the second driver that opted for the two-tire strategy when it all counted, and it saw Matt Danson score himself a few extra positions that perhaps you may not have been able to get otherwise, Matt, as we got down to those last green-white checkers.
Oh yeah, for sure. We definitely scammed a few spots there. Awesome call from Sean. I saw his car coming in the mirror, and I was just desperate to get released from the pit, but you know, he was obviously just a little bit ahead. So yeah, we'll take it. It's like I said, a bit of a scam. You know, Agnell. You know, it looks like he definitely deserved the win. He was far and away the fastest, and you know, Drew obviously had a super unlucky run there as well. He was, I think those two were clearly the class of the field. Sam was really fast as well, but I mean, we'll take it.
And of course, you were kind of finding yourself in all of the chaos over the course of the night. Richmond is one of those tracks where it can be very easy to get physical. Why don't you talk us through what it was like for you to be able to have to kind of fight your way for the rest of this field when some of them didn't seem so happy to be seeing you working your way closer and closer to the front?
Yeah, I mean, it was very messy. It was an earlier one. It looked like, I don't know if Michael Lerai just kind of got surprised. He had a much better long run speed than me. I think he just got surprised by how, you know, horribly slow I was mid corner, and you know, I was sort of a lane up, and he was on the bottom, but just kind of came up a little bit as well. That's just a racing deal. I wouldn't want to see that put on him. I don't think it was either our fault. It was just, you know, just racing. So that was no big deal. But yeah, with Thomas, I looked at it a few times. You know, at the time I was like, okay, we're gonna duck down to the bottom. Let's just, you know, wrap the line and make sure we you know, all survive. And I did that. And in hindsight, I probably should have been more aggressive, because it looked like what I did was actually like almost backed out from the move in such a way where I was in like kind of no man's land. So, you know, Thomas naturally is going to try and bring it down, and you know, but then to do that, he kind of had to back up the corner, and then, you know, I just ran over the back of him. So it's 100% on me, but yeah, kind of a crappy deal. So I hate that happened to him, and you know, perhaps it's just a matter of being a bit smarter on my side, and just, you know, sitting in behind there, not trying to make moves. But I don't know, we're here to race, right? So got to kind of go for it at some point. But yeah, the rest of that was just recovery. It looked like actually from that, you know, myself, Grant, maybe one or two others were good on fuel to the end. So if we had to stay green, that could have been a bit of an interesting finish. But you know, ended up not being an issue because yellow came out, and then it's just a matter of getting what you can. And yeah, today we're on the lucky end of things.
As always, Matt, it's always a joy to be able to have you up here at the broadcast booth with us. Congratulations on the third place finish. Best of luck when we get set to go down and dirty dirt track racing over in Bristol in 2 weeks.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I might not. It might be in my best interest not to run that one, because I'll just rack up more points at a track that I'm absolutely horrible at. So see how we go. But yeah, thank you to obviously you guys, everyone in the commentary booth, everyone who makes it happen week in, week out. Shout out, you know, VRS. I got the new wheel. It's just been released, which is an amazing piece of kit. Logitech G. Cube controls, Optic, Racetech Gaming as well, and any, yeah, get around it all. Thank you.
I was about to answer. Join us up here from third place on the podium. And, well, Evan, for the sounds of it, some of the main big dogs over here in RSR, they're not looking terribly confident, as it seems we get set to head back to Bristol in 2 weeks.
Listen, a lot of nerves. I'm not shocked about that headed into the Bristol dirt race. It is always such a wild card, and who would have thought that maybe Richmond would be a race that you're thinking, let me just take a normal race, get some points, because I don't know what's happening next week, right? Richmond's normally that kind of a wild card one, and I think we saw a little bit of everything tonight, as always, here on a Monday night. The long green flag runs, the late race drama, and the two-tire call worked out. Sean Casto admitted it. He said, hey, listen, I've gotten a lot of these good finishes by making strategy calls like this, and it pays off for him as he becomes yet another different race winner.
That's the second time this year, actually, that two-tire call has paid off as well. I believe it was Vegas where we saw something similar. Somebody took 2 tires and they ended up walking away with a race win on the green-white checker finish. So it seems like this has certainly been the year for strategies, and Bristol Dirt, probably not going to be so much of a strategy race. It'll be more of an attrition race, but you look back to Talladega, that is absolutely going to be a strategy race, especially with how close quarters everything can get at 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, Andrew, I'll jump back to you on this one if you're still there and ask you, what are we going to see at the Bristol Dirt Race? I mean, it's chaotic from our, 9,000 foot perspective from way above and watch it in the booth. But, what's it going to be like for these drivers in the cars for the one and only dirt race on the calendar?
I, for one, cannot wait for it. Dirt racing is extremely fun. You're going to see a track change. You're going to go from very, very tacky to very, very sideways. When that track slicks over, you really got to run the bottom. You got to run the top. You got to be nice and easy with the throttle. Probably going to see a lot of cautions, if I'm being honest, but I've won there and I finished second there, so my record's pretty good. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to jump in and try to screw around with these guys again and see if I can't pick up another W this year.
And hopefully for your sake, we'll be talking with you next week just at the end of the race. We wish you the best of luck in that one, Andrew. We also appreciate you jumping up here and joining us here this afternoon. Until next time, though, that is it for us here tonight from iRacing's virtual Richmond Raceway. On behalf of all the people who make tonight's broadcast possible, for the entire team at RealSimRacing, for Get Wet Sports, and for your broadcast team tonight. For our surprise guest analyst, Andrew Freenosh, our producer, Joshua Lee, Nolan Rempel, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in and congratulations to Sean Casto. It's a big win for him, and it's a big win for Bowie Esports as their Alpha team chips away 24 points now behind the A51 Pro X Altus Alliance at the top of the team championship. It is another off week next Monday. Then we come back on Monday, April 17th from iRacing's virtual Bristol Motor Speedway dirt track. That race and every race of the 2023 Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series can be found exclusively here on RaceSpotTV. Till next time, good night from Richmond, where Sean Casto is back in Full Throttle Victory Lane.